You know the document is in there. The problem is that there means 3 computer folders, 2 envelopes, a medical portal, and a VA letter you cannot remember opening. Then someone asks, what evidence supports this condition? You find a page, but you are not sure whether it is a treatment note, an examination report, or a decision explanation. And even after you find it, you may still wonder, what does this document actually say? What does it not say? What question comes next?
Welcome to the Veteran Benefits Reset Podcast, where we help veterans and their families better understand the VA disability benefits process, one step at a time. I'm your host, Cameron Burrell, a U.S. Army veteran and founder of VetBiz Media. Today, we are turning that pile of records into something easier to work with, a one-page VA evidence inventory.
Here is the idea I want you to keep with you. The goal is not to collect the most records. The goal is to know what each record says, what it does not say, and what question comes next. That is the difference between a stack of documents and a usable map. This inventory is an educational organization tool. It is not a universal checklist, legal or medical advice, or a way to predict a rating, approval, denial, effective date, or compensation amount. Verify current information through official VA resources and bring questions to a VA-accredited veteran service organization, claims agent, or attorney when appropriate. You do not need a special spreadsheet to begin. Take one sheet of paper or open a secure document and write 5 headings across the top: condition, document, date, status, and question. That is enough to start. We will add detail as we go, but we are not trying to build a second filing system. We are building a quick index that helps you see the connections.
Begin with one condition or one decision document, not your entire military and medical history. One condition. Maybe it is recurring knee pain. Maybe it is ringing in your ears. Maybe it is difficulty sleeping and concentrating. Write the concern in words you naturally use. You are creating a starting point, not trying to diagnose yourself or write a legal argument.
For this episode, let us use a general example. We will call the person Veteran A. Veteran A writes, recurring lower back pain. Under that, Veteran A adds 3 short notes: symptoms or functional problems, where a diagnosis appears if one is documented, and the service connection question that still needs to be understood.
The first note might say, pain after standing, limited bending, difficulty lifting. The second might say, diagnosis appears in a post-service treatment note, if that is what the record actually shows. The third might say, question, do the available records address when the problem began and how it relates to service? Notice the wording. Veteran A is not writing, this proves my claim. Veteran A is writing, this is what I have, and this is what I need to understand. Facts over frustration.
That distinction matters because a symptom, a diagnosis, and a service connection question are not the same thing. A symptom is what someone experiences, such as pain, ringing, numbness, or difficulty sleeping. A diagnosis is a medical conclusion documented by an appropriate medical professional. A service connection question concerns the relationship between a current condition and qualifying military service. They may appear together in a claim, but your inventory should keep them separate so you can see what is documented and what remains a question.
Now, Veteran A starts adding documents. First, a service record. The inventory entry might read, Service Treatment Record, dated May 14, 2008, status, located. Question, what symptoms or event does this record actually describe? That is a useful entry because it identifies the source and date without claiming more than the document contains.
Next comes a post-service treatment note. Veteran A writes, clinic note, dated October 3, 2022. Status, located. Document describes reported lower back pain and treatment recommendations. Question, does it include a diagnosis, testing, or a discussion of history? Again, the inventory describes the document. It does not announce what the document guarantees.
The categories can be simple. Military service information, medical records, VA examinations, and examination-related correspondence. Lay observations from the veteran, family members, or people who notice changes over time. Employment information, when work impact is part of the question. And VA correspondence, including evidence requests, notices, and decision documents.
A lay statement can describe what someone saw, heard, or experienced. It should not be presented as a medical diagnosis unless the person is qualified to provide that kind of opinion. Employment information can help organize questions about functional impact, but it does not automatically establish any particular benefit. And a VA examination report is still a document to read and understand. Do not summarize it from memory or from somebody else's story online.
Here is a useful test for every row. Can I describe what this document contains in one sentence? For a treatment note, you might write, documents reported pain and a range of motion concern. For a personnel record, you might write, shows an assignment during a particular period. For a decision letter, you might write, explains the evidence and reasoning discussed by VA. If your sentence starts with, this proves, slow down and replace it with a description.
The date column is where this page starts becoming a map. Record the date of treatment, examination, claim, decision, submission, or receipt when that information is available. Veteran A adds the date of the service record, the date on a VA letter, and the date on a VA letter. If the letter gives a response date or explains a review option, Veteran A marks that for careful follow-up.
The status column can use ordinary words. If you asked for a record but have not received it, write requested. If you sent something and have confirmation, write submitted or received, depending on what you can verify. If you have 2 copies of the same note, write duplicate. If you do not know whether VA received a document, write unclear. Those 3 words prevent 3 very different problems from collapsing into one word, missing.
What should Veteran A do with an unclear status? Not guess. The next line becomes a question. Where can I verify whether this document was received? The answer may involve reviewing official correspondence, checking an appropriate VA system, or asking an accredited representative for help understanding the process. The inventory is doing its job when it turns anxiety into a specific question.
Now let us add a C and P examination report to the example. Veteran A writes the examination date, identifies the condition discussed, and notes where the report is located. Then comes the question. Are there terms or findings in this report I do not understand? That is a better starting point than deciding from one sentence whether the examination is good or bad.
The same approach works with a decision letter. Record the date. Keep the full letter secure. Note which condition it discusses and what evidence or explanation it references. Then write the exact question you need answered. Maybe the wording is unclear. Maybe you want to understand what review options are described. Maybe you need to confirm a response date. Do not substitute a general internet checklist for the actual letter in your hands.
This is also where many people make a reasonable but risky leap. They see one missing record and think the entire claim is over. Or they find one favorable sounding sentence and assume the result is guaranteed. Neither conclusion follows automatically. An unclear opinion is a reason to seek clarification. An incomplete request is a reason to verify status. A disagreement with a decision is a reason to understand the available process and timing. It is not a reason to predict the outcome from one page.
Your question list might include, does this record describe a symptom, a diagnosis, or both? Is the medical opinion clear enough for me to understand? Was the requested document received? What does this decision language mean? Is there a date or instruction I need to verify? Those questions do not make you an expert, and they do not need to. They help you have a more focused conversation with someone qualified to explain your options. There is one more part of responsible organization: privacy. Your inventory does not need every personal detail. Include information relevant to the question you are reviewing. Store records securely. Be careful when uploading documents or sending them by email. If a full document is not needed for a particular purpose, Do not share more personal information than necessary. Use trusted, appropriate channels, including official VA systems or qualified accredited representatives.
You may notice that one record uses different wording from another. That does not automatically mean the records conflict. You may find that a service record provides context you had forgotten. You may discover that a decision letter answers one question but raises another. Good organization does not erase uncertainty. It makes uncertainty visible, so you can address it responsibly.
And please be cautious with online certainty. One veteran's experience is not a universal checklist. One document does not automatically guarantee a result, and one missing document does not automatically guarantee failure. Your service history, medical history, records, and procedural situation are your own. Use online information to identify topics to verify, not to replace official information or accredited guidance.
Before the next episode, set a 15-minute timer. Choose one condition or one decision letter, not your entire claim. Write the 5 headings: condition, document, date, status, question. Add 3 to 5 records. Mark each one with a status you can support. Then write at least 2 questions you want to verify through official VA resources or discuss with an accredited representative. When the timer ends, stop. A useful first page is better than an overwhelming project you never begin. Before you close this episode, see if your page can answer 4 things. What condition or concern are you reviewing? What documents do you have, and what do they actually contain? What dates and status information can you verify? What questions remain unanswered? That is the VA Evidence Inventory. One condition, one page, a clearer set of questions. Thanks for listening to the Veteran Benefits Reset podcast. I hope today's episode helped you replace a scattered record pile with a practical way to begin. Remember, this podcast is an independent educational resource. It is not legal or medical advice, and it does not replace guidance from a VA-accredited veteran service organization, claims agent, or attorney. Every veteran's service, medical history, and claim are different, so verify current information through official VA resources and seek accredited help when appropriate. If you found today's episode helpful, follow the podcast, leave a review, and share it with another veteran, family member, or caregiver who could benefit. Download the free 7-step Veteran Benefits Reset Guide at vetbizmedia.com/veteran7. Stay organized, stay informed, stay ready. And remember, your service did not expire. Your story is still worth reviewing. Take the next responsible step.